showing you how to make what I call a creeper. In particular, I'm making what's called a climbing creeper. I'm going to show you how to take a Walgreens skeleton and turn this Walgreens skeleton into this climbing creeper here. This is one, like I've already done the video. I'll be taking you through this and showing you how to make the base for this creeper. And then in another video, I'm going to show you how to corpse it and set it up and make it look really nice. So that's today's video. Now this one thing, you might notice my face looks like it's kind of rashy or scarred up. I would like to say that was some sort of really cool like Frankenstein makeup, but it's actually I have something called actinic keratosis, which is precancerous cells on the face. The treatment is a cream that you put on the face, and the cream causes the rash. So I'm going to have this for about 2 or 3 weeks. I didn't want to hold up and wait till after the rash was gone to start doing videos, so I'm doing videos now. Alright, so one of the first things we're going to do is take this skeleton apart. We're going to be repositioning the arms, we're going to be repositioning the legs. As far as the head goes, I'm going to pop the head off. I'm working on another head, which I have drying off down in the driveway right now. I'm going to be putting that head onto this for the head of the creeper. And then eventually I'll do something with this head where I'll take this head out and turn it into another, turn it into something for a different creeper or a creation like evil tree or something like that I'll make in the future. Taking these things apart, different skeletons are different qualities and they're put together different ways. I think I got these skeletons from Walgreens last year. One of the things is if you go to Walgreens a week or two after Halloween, they oftentimes have skeletons left over for 50% or 75% off. So you wind up paying anywhere from $10 to $15 for a skeleton instead of $35 to $40 for a skeleton, which is a lot more affordable. We can take this apart. First thing I'm going to do is pop off the head because I really don't need the head. As I said, I'll use this head for a different project in the future. And then I'm just going to go apart here. I'm going to look at the arms, I'm going to look at the legs, see how they're put together. Got different screwdrivers and everything. I'm going to start taking things apart. On these, they have these white caps in here. Now, just get in there with a screwdriver, unscrew them. And this is one of the things where if you have any magnetic trays laying around, anything that you take out, you take apart, it's good to just pop into there. Take that off, the back part. Basically the idea is just take everything apart. Once you take the caps off, get to the bolts, get some wrenches, undo them, they'll just pop out. As I said, it literally depends where you get the skeleton from, about how easy it is and how to take it apart. So the way I take this skeleton apart might be a little different than the way you take your apart. Not a big deal, they all come apart. Just have to figure out how to do it. And that's something you'll be able to figure out as you break out the screwdriver and start disassembling it. For the arms on this one, I just kind of snap them off because the way I'm going to be doing it, I'm going to be fitting these in here. I'm not putting them back in. And the way I attach these different things, I use what are called deck screws. So I was able to break them off and do it. That's because if I practice doing this, you still might want to actually unscrew stuff and unscrew things until you feel comfortable making these and you know exactly what you want when you do them. Now on the leg here, you'll notice there's a bolt, a screw. That bolt's barely holding things on. Just take a pair of pliers, channel locks, a wrench, whatever you want to do. Unscrew the other side, everything comes undone. Pop it into this dish. You know, flat washers like this, like I repurpose a lot of different things. One of the things I'm going to be doing later on is I'm going to be attaching dryer duct, which I use for like necks, tails, stuff like that. And one of the things I found is putting a screw through a flat washer like this helps push the dryer duct up against whatever I want to attach to, and it makes it fit on there a little bit firmer. Pop the bolt out. other washer. I've got the leg cut off, or leg taken out. I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Okay, I got everything apart. I just want to say, like, whatever design you want to use, there's a lot of different designs you can do. Your imagination is the only thing that's holding you back. The one that we're going to do today is what I call a climbing creeper. And the climbing creepers I use in trees. Like, I put them up in trees, make it look like they're climbing down the trees, or make it look like they're climbing up the trees. I put one on the wall in my basement. So if people come down, it looks like it's actually climbing down the wall of my basement. Here I have what I'm going to be calling a croco creeper. It's kind of like got the tail on the ground, walking along and everything. Got this one here where I have basically two heads, and then one head up here, another head down here. And as I said, your imagination is the only thing holding you back from whatever you want to do. What I'm doing today is don't have 4 legs, but you can, if you have an extra pair of legs or an extra pair of arms, or you have 3 pair of arms or whatever, you can have them coming out the side of this, and you can do anything you basically want when you're making one of these. For me, the creeper looks the better. The creeper I can make it, the more natural I can make it, the better the final product will be. And one of the things is, as you're going along, let's say you mess something up, you don't like the way, like you have it, you put a hole in the rib cage, or arm breaks off, or something like that. When you're making these, abnormalities, imperfections like that can actually make these look pretty cool as the final product. So if something doesn't go quite the way you want it to, it's really not a big deal. It's like you just work it into the final product, and you can make a lot of things that you sit there, don't think are going to look that good, they wind up looking really cool in the end. Doing something like putting the hand and the arm into the socket here, and it just kind of pops in. Now, since this is a climbing creeper, if I had this on the ground, and I was making the ground, like walking along or something, I might actually keep the hand the way it is here, so look fine walking along. Because it's a climbing creeper, I want to kind of have it look like it's grasping a tree. I'm going to actually have to flip this hand around. I just don't take an extra step here, but it's an easy enough step to do. There is a screw and a pin here that holds the hand into shape. I'm going to take the screw out, I'm going to flip the hand around, and then I'm going to take a grinder, I'm going to modify this so that this will bend the way I want it to do. So let's get the screwdriver. Again. See? Screw holds into place, put it in the magnetic holder, and that just pops out. I'm going to be flipping it over. But it doesn't go flat the way I want it to go, so I got to get it so that it will easily go flat up like that. And it's an easy enough thing to do. I'm going to grind a little bit of the plastic away. And for that, I need the grinder. Now, the main thing is be careful. You don't want to go through the whole thing if you can avoid it. But even if you do, a little bit of tape will hold it together. Later on in the process, we're going to be corpsing the skeleton, and any imperfections that you have, any little screw-ups that you have, are going to get covered by the plastic corpsing. You want to stop every couple of minutes. The plastic can be a little hot, so you want to give it a chance to cool off. Get the excess plastic out of there. Grab the hand. Fit into where it's going. And then see how it moves. I still have to take a little take away a little bit of the bone over here, and then that will give me the full range of movement that I'm looking for. There we go. Take the screw. Screw back in there. I got it in there. And I now have the range of movement that I want, so it's going to fit in just the way I like it. I might make a little bit more of a cut, get a little bit more out, but I think you get the idea of what I'm going for and how you can modify that. Like I said, that modification is totally up to you. If you like it inside better, you'll have to play around with it. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the arm back to the skeleton. And the way I do this, I use what are called deck screws. One of the things when I'm doing my projects, I get impatient sometimes, so I like fast and easy. These deck screws really help me move things along. They almost always work the way I want to, almost. They go in nice, fast, easy. They've never stripped on me. Takes a certain type of star drive, but if you buy a box of these at Home Depot or Lowe's, someplace like that, the box has star drive in it. And it just works really, really well. So what I'm going to be doing for this is I'm going to be popping this in. See there's a hole up there? Different ways you can do this. I've done projects in the past where I'll actually cut out a couple of ribs and jam it in there. I've done things with multiple arms where I might put one in up here, but then I cut a hole here and put in another set of arms or legs there. Like I keep saying, your imagination is the only thing that's holding you back there. I'm going to pop this in here, figure out where I want it. I'm just going to have to be doing a very basic job here. But if I want to, I can set it so like it looks like it's climbing and put the hand up there. Make it look like it's climbing up. Make it look like it's actually moving. It's all up to you. Now, the way I do this is I figure out the position I want. I'm just going with a very basic position here. Since it's climbing a tree, I want it to be able to kind of wrap his arms around the tree as it's climbing. But do it like this, however you want. Actually, I'll probably go with this. I kind of like the way this looks. Take a drill bit, drill a pilot hole. Take a deck screw. For this, I think I'm using 2.5-inch deck screws. Okay, I zipped it in. And it's actually, as you can see, pretty firm in there. If you want, it's easy enough. Zip another one in if you want to. You don't have to, I don't think, but you know, if I'm doing my first one, I'm probably going to over-engineer everything because you want everything to come out as best you can. So start another one up here. One of the things is we'll be corpsing the skeleton later on. So screws and everything, you won't see the screw heads once you corpse it. Now, as far as screws go, sometimes it might come through the plastic a little bit on the other side. If it's inside a rib cage where my hand's not going to go, I'm not worried about getting myself cut up or anything. I'm going to leave it the way it is. If I were to have it coming through where the screw's protruding right here or something, where it might get caught, like scratch me up, cut me or something, then what I would do is I would get a Dremel with a cutting wheel and just cut it off. Now, if you have a particular tree in mind where you want to put one of these things, all you have to do, bring it over here to the tree that you want to use it in, figure out about where you want it, figure out where you want the arms and everything. If you don't have a particular tree, you're going to be putting in like different trees and everything, not a big deal. Just something that you can do as an extra step to help yourself out. In the future, might make things a little easier, but not necessary, just a little bit helpful. The other thing is, these creepers are easy enough to make. I'm making a climbing creeper right now, but hopefully as you watch this, you can figure out, okay, well I can also make ground creepers to do a lot of different poses. And one of the things I'll do is I'll put some of the pictures of past creepers I've done that are ground creepers into this video, so you might be able to get some ideas of what you can do with these creepers. I also have a written tutorial that I did on a Halloween forum. I'll also put the link to that in here. I did the tutorial probably about 3, 4, 5 years ago. I've made a lot of changes. I think it's a lot simpler, but once again, it's something that you might look at and might give you ideas for things to do. All right, now that I've got the general shape that I want this to be in and everything, I'm going to be posing this. And the way I pose it is, I'm going to be taking the deck screws I was using earlier, and I'm going to drive from the upper bone into the lower bone. And these deck screws are really useful in a lot of different ways. I've been using them for years in the different props I've been making to help pose the different props. I've got props I made, like I'll be doing a video in a couple weeks. And the video I'm going to be doing is showing people how to use deck screws and rebar to get a skeleton like this, but make it look like it's standing upright and just standing freestanding. I've done that in the past. I've modified porches like that in the past, and because of the deck screws, and if you do it right, it gives it a very good amount of firmness, and it's lasted pretty long. I've got zombies I did 4 years ago that are still in really, really good shape. Like I can put them up and they'll be standing. So the way I do this, just take a screwdriver, make a pilot hole, and basically the idea is to go through the upper bone into the lower bone. You might hear some crunching and stuff breaking in there. It's fine. Once you do this though, it's pretty much going to be permanent. So make sure that however you want to pose it, that's the way you want to do it. Okay, through the upper bone, going to the lower bone, as in the shape. Now I could have used a shorter screw, I probably should have, but you'll notice that there's a little bit of the screwdriver bit sticking out like this. In a place like this, I don't want that. Alright, now to get the tip of the screw off, pretty simple. What you're going to need a Dremel, spray bottle of water, a pair of pliers, and an empty bottle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut through this. I cut through it about 3/4 of the way. I don't want to go all the way through it, because if you go all the way through it, it can drop, fall on the table. It's going to be superheated from all the friction. It can melt the table. If it drops on the ground, you might lose it. It might wind up in a tire or something like that. So what I'm going to do is cut through about 3/4 of the way, get a pair of pliers, bend it off the rest of the way, drop it into the Snapple bottle. I also like to occasionally hit it with a little bit of water, because it can get so hot, it can actually melt the plastic of the bone. Okay, that should be enough. Turn it off. Grab a pair of pliers. Bend it. Pop it in there. Now I don't have to worry about it getting caught up in any tires or melting any plastic or anything. And if you're worried about like that, that's good enough for what I'm doing and everything. It's going to be covered up with plastic later on. But if you want to like get a little more flusher, you can just use a wheel and grind it a little more flush. But you got to be careful with that because it heats up the screw, and you don't want to compromise the integrity of the connection between the screw and the plastic by heating the plastic up so much that it starts to melt. Alright, so the next part we're going to do is attach the legs. Now, different skeletons have different quality plastic and they're built a little different. You're going to have to figure out what the best way to attach the skeleton, like the legs for you is. The way I'm going to do this one here, I mean, when you do this, you can attach it in a few different ways. I like to have as secure of a footing as I possibly can. So what I'll be doing is cutting out, see right here, there's a tight hole there. I'm going to get a Sawzall. I'm going to make a cut up to there, a cut up to there. I'm going to get a pair of pliers, break that out. And what I'm trying to do is make a big enough hole that I can squeeze that ball joint into that hole. I did it over here. It's a pretty nice tight fit and everything, but I push, I can squeeze it in there, and then I can use a deck screw or two and get it in the position I want. Now, some pelvic bones for different types of skeletons are set up differently, so you might be able to do this a little easier in the way I'm doing it. Don't be afraid to play around, don't be afraid to make modifications, figure out what works best for you. So when I do this, I'm just getting a Sawzall. I'm going to make a cut going straight down here. I'll do another cut on the other side. Of course, be careful when you're doing this. I'm going to grab a pair of pliers, put this in here. All right. Crack it off. I've made that hole a little bit bigger. If I need to, I can grind it, shape it in a couple of different ways. But basically the idea is I want to get the leg bone so I can pop it and squeeze it into that hole. If I need to shave this down a little bit, I can shave this down, pop it in there, and then move it into the position I wanted to. Once I move it into the position I wanted to, I'll deck screw it into place. So you can see I've cut that off there. You might be able to use a hole saw, you might be able to use different things, but basically I'm going to squeeze this through that hole. All right, I've squeezed it through the hole. I've now set it up where I can move it up like that, I can move it back like that. I can make other modifications if I want to bend it back even further. But what I'll do is get a couple of decks, figure out exactly what position I want this to be in. Once I figure out the position I want it to be in, I'll screw it into place and I'll be set. All right, so I got both of these into position now, like into the holes. Wasn't that hard to do. There's different ways that you could do it. Once again, don't be afraid to play around. If you have tools, use different tools. If you have a hole saw, you might be able to just cut a hole into this joint here, pop it right in there. You can just lay it on top, use deck screws, lay it on top by the spine here. There's a couple different ways to do it. Depends upon what angle you want to do. Do you want to have walking? Figure out how you want the leg. Do you want the leg back here? You want it up here, make it look like it's climbing the tree. A lot of different ways you can play around with it and do it. Now, like I said, I'm doing a basic creeper here. I'm going to get this into place. Means I'm going to have to line this up, drill a pilot hole. Got my pilot hole right there. Grab a screw. Using 3-inch screws for this one, since it's a little bit of further distance. Probably don't go all the way through and I'll have to cut it off, but I'd rather go too far than not far enough. You want to make sure it's on line to go into the pelvic bone. And just like that, very solid attachment there. And I'm slowly getting that climbing look that I want to do here. Now, one of the things I talked about a couple times in this video different qualities of skeleton. This is a Walgreens skeleton I got from Walgreens last year. And this is a pretty sturdy and strong skeleton. You see there's very little flex in this bone here. Here's a different type of skeleton that I probably got from Home Depot or someplace like that. You'll see there's a ton of flex in there, and that's don't affect the way that your final products don't wind up. If it's really, really flexible, if you're making a creeper that's on the ground and everything, you'll find that it collapses a little bit. You don't have to find ways to shore up the bone. Different ways you can shore up the bones is you can clamp the outside of the bone, or you might be able to get a 3/4 inch really long, extra long drill bit, drill out the inside, put a dowel rod or a piece of PVC in there, and then put a couple screws through to connect the screws to the outer bone to the PVC or the dowel rod. But when you have this much flex in the bone and you see it's cracking and everything, that's going to be a problem. That's why I do like this skeleton here. There's no flexing, there's no cracking or anything like this. This is what I want. Now, while this skeleton is actually sturdier and more firm, one of the things you'll notice is that this skeleton, you can see a lot of like the joints and everything. You can see the bolts, you can see the screws all over the place. We're going to be corpsing it, so it's not a big deal. This one, which is flimsier, you don't see those exposed joints and screws. Just a little bit of a difference between the two. Next thing we want to do is we want to pose the knees. Once again, one bone into the other bone. Figure out the pose you want, figure out where you want it. Now it's not quite as sturdy as I want it, so I'm going to use a second one on this one. Normally one screw is enough, but sometimes it just isn't. Actually, what happened was I put it through, I missed the joint I wanted to go into, so I could either take that out and redo it, or just do a new one. And there we go. This is the way I want it. Do the same thing to the other side. Alright, so before you go any further, you just want to bring it outside, make sure it sets up the way that you want it to and everything. We're going to be doing a couple things over the next couple of minutes. I'm going to be putting a neck for the head on here. I'm also going to be creating some anchor points in the body of the skeleton that I'm going to be using zip ties to anchor to the tree. If you do it right, you pretty much won't be able to see the zip ties once everything's all done, once everything's corpsed and you've gotten into the tree. Alright, now since this is a climbing creeper, something I'm going to be hanging a tree, I want to set it up so that I have some sort of anchoring system for when I put in a tree. I just use like zip ties. You can go with thicker zip ties, narrower zip ties, whichever you want to do. I actually like using thicker ones for the anchors. That way it's a little harder to accidentally cut through or something like that. And when you do the anchor points, just put the zip tie, pick an area or two on the belly. Since this is going to be going up against a tree, people won't be able to see the anchor point. And what happens is when we corpse, we're going to be corpsing around the anchor point. So corpsing will be all around it, and you'll just have a little bit of the anchor sticking out. Just through here. So just have a little bit sticking out. Now I'm doing this inside. You can actually do it outside in case you want to make more adjustments later on. And you want to have at least 2 anchor points. You can have more than 2 anchor points if you want. But you want to have 2 that keep it up close and snug to the tree. So I'm putting one there. I'm going to put another one down here around the pelvic bone. For a second anchor point. If I wanted to, if I don't want to have one there, I could also drill a hole through the spine or wrap one around the spine here and use that as an anchor point. You have a lot of different options for where you want to do the anchor point. That's one of the things I would do if I were you, is take a look at the tree you're doing, mess around with a little bit, and see what works best for you before you move on to the corpsing. But put in a couple of these, and then what will happen later on is get another one of these zip ties. And when I put it up to the tree, I'll slide it through like so. And I'll get a nail. I'll put the nail through the zip tie into the tree. That'll be one way to hold it up. Do the same thing down there. I got two things holding on to the tree. And then if I want the arms to hug the tree a little bit more, there's various ways you can get the arms and the feet to hug the tree more. Next, I'm going to show you how to put a head, or how I do the heads, onto the skeletons. Here I have a head already kind of partially made up. I still have to highlight and do like a lot of fine tuning to it, but it'll work for our purposes for what we're doing today. I do have another video on horrifying a skull, and that's how I make the different skulls. This one's a very basic one. There's no teeth or anything like that, but once it's highlighted, it should give it a nice creepy look to it. Now for the skeleton here, we got the neck here. As far as the neck goes, I don't use this. Pop this out, break it out, whatever. And different skeletons, I keep saying this, are designed differently. Some skeletons, if you take this piece out, it's nice and hollow, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting PVC in here, and you'll see why we're using the PVC in a minute or two. Some, you're able to take this, just slide it right in, no problem. This one, however, the neck's not really thick enough, there's stuff in the way, so I'm going to have to drill this out so that this will fit. To drill this out, I'm going to need a 7/8 inch spade drill bit, and once I get that, I'm going to ream it out a little bit, be able to slide this in, and then I'll show you how we attach the PVC to the spine. Alright, so I'm going to be putting this into the spinal column. I went in there, it just broke out. There were a couple of pegs that were holding this to the back and everything. I just broke those out. My original idea was to ream this out, but I gotta be honest, I don't think it's gonna work that well. So what I'm gonna do instead, to get this to fit in there a little bit better, is I'm gonna heat this up. I'm gonna make it a little bit more narrow. I should be able to push that in there, and then I'm gonna do a couple things to give it a nice tight fit so it all fits together well and won't fall apart. Now, to make the neck a little bit more narrow, basically I'm getting a heat gun. I'm just going to be heating this up a little bit. I'm going to be crushing in the vise here. You can also use a pair of pliers, a pair of channel locks. There's a lot of ways to crush it and make it a little bit narrower. But since I have this here, I'm going to use this. Take the heat gun, heat it up for a minute or so. Heat it back as far as you want to crush it. You want to hold the pipe because as you heat it, it's going to become loose in the vise. Crush it narrow. Hit it with a little bit of water. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make it narrow a little bit more up here too. So I got plenty of pipe that I can put into the spine. Like I said, some skeletons, the channel and the spine is big enough that you don't need to make any modifications like this. This skeleton, I do. A bit of water, cool it off. Okay, and now it's narrow enough that I can fit it in the spine, no problem. All right, so I'm going to be doing a couple of different things here. First of all, you can see how I crushed it there. It actually fits into here pretty easily now. Once I attach this, it's going to be as solid as can be. Now what I want to do is I want to figure out how long I want the neck, what I want the neck to look like. Now this one I'm going to have climbing down a tree. And since it's climbing down the tree, I wanted to have a neck that kind of comes up like this and is looking at people as they walk by. If I have it high up, I want to have it almost like on a diagonal level. If I'm having it down more like where people are at, I want more of a level where it's going to be making somewhat of eye contact with them. If I'm planning on having it really down low, I might want to make it so it's looking at an upward line level or angle. So what I'm going to do is figure out about how much of this I want for a neck. I'm thinking probably right about here. Take this, take my sawzall, and I've got it how long I want it. Next thing I do is take this, put it into the channel there, and then I'm going to take a couple of zip ties. I'm going to zip tie the spine, like it is a little loose here. I'm going to zip tie the spine to the back. And then I'm going to take a couple of really small deck screws, 1 1/4 inch deck screws. I'm going to drill pilot holes, and I'm going to drill a couple in, attaching the pipe to the spine. So for the zip ties, just grab a few, put it down through the one hole in the back there, up through the other one, through the hole. Pull it tight. Like to get a pair of pliers. Okay, one. You only have to do a couple. Two. I'll do a third one. Let's see, it's pretty solid as it is. Do one up here. That off, cut that off. As it is right now, this is actually in here pretty solid. Honestly, it's probably not going to go anywhere, but this is one of the things where I like to be extra careful on. So what I'm going to do is add a couple of screws in there also, where I'm going to drill through the spine into the PVC pipe. Then you can feel it when you hit, so you know you're going into the right spot and all. I'm going to do 3. And for this, I'm just taking 1 1/4 inch deck screws. And drilling them in. This is going nowhere. It's nice and tight. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to be attaching the head to the neck. First thing I did is I'm going to be putting a more expansive neck on it. I use dryer duct for that. You want to cut the piece first. My wife's always reminding me, knows like I go to put the head on, all of a sudden she's like, oh, you forgot the neck. It's like, oh, you're right. And I got to take it off and redo it. Now when you put the head on, I'm using something that I call skull plugs. And when you use skull plugs, depending upon what kind of skull you have, you might use different size holes in the skull. In this case, the base of this skull is a Home Depot skull where last year I was able to get 3 in a pack. They're cheap. I got them after Halloween, super cheap price. However, the plastic on these is a lot more flexible than, say, the plastic on this skull here. This came with the Walgreens skeleton. This plastic is incredibly firm. This is what you want to use if you have a choice. Now, what you do here, figure out where you're going to have this going in. And honestly, you have a lot of different choices because this is an alien type being. It doesn't have to go in at the base. It can go in through like the back of the spine or wherever you want. And for this skull, it's actually a little more firm up top here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a section of the plastic wrap that's around the skull. I don't want to cut into the skull at all. I just want to cut some of the plastic off. The reason we're cutting the plastic off is we're going to be drilling a hole into here. The hole size that I'm going to drill is a 3/4 inch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to force this onto the skull plug, and that should hopefully keep it in place pretty well. So let me get my 3/4 inch spade bit right here. And if this is too small, I'll just make it a little bit larger, maybe 7/8 of an inch. But I'll take that plastic right there. That's a firmer place of the plastic. Put it in here. Since I have the plastic wrap cut off, it's not binding up or anything. Going through and into there. And then I'll take this. That's not really fitting that well, so I'm going to switch to a 7/8 inch drill bit. I'm going to make that hole just a little bit larger. So everything I said about 3/4 inch, forget it. Just go with the 7/8. Now I'm going to take this, sliding it onto here. And that's actually on there pretty solid. I'm going to get a little epoxy. I'm going to put a little epoxy in there, and it looks the way I want it to look. As I said, this skull is a little more flexible in areas, and it's harder work if you go into the really flexible areas. So if you can get skulls that are harder, they're better to use. Next, we're bending the neck. Now, as far as bending the neck goes, you can do it before you put the head on. The only reason I put the head on first here is so that I can get a good idea of where the head's going to be when I bend it and how it's looking. For this, I'm actually going to put probably 2 bends. I'm going to do a bend here, another bend there. I'm imagining this one being about like maybe 7-8 feet in the air. So it's going to have a slight angle where it's looking down at a person. I could probably do it with 1 bend, but I think 2 bends will give it a little bit more of an unnatural look. Bend it, real simple to do. Take a heat gun, pick your area that you're going to heat up. When you do this, when you make sure you have a bottle of water nearby, whenever you heat this up and you bend it, if you spray it with water, it cools it down and allows it to reshape itself a lot faster. Have fun when you're shaping it. You can have a couple of bends in it if you want. Do it however you want.
Jim.
So, bend this a little bit here. I got the first bend where I want it to be. Spray it with water. cooled down, solidified, it's into place. Now I'm taking a look at this. It's in the tree. If it was up really high, that would be enough of a bend, but because I'm gonna have the tree a little bit lower, I'm gonna put another bend right about here. So we're doing the same thing. Heating it up right about here. Bend that like so. Get the spray bottle of water. And now it's got the look that I'm looking for. Now, the next thing that we're going to be doing is making this neck covering. For the neck covering, I'm going to be using these washers. Now, earlier we took washers off of the legs for this one. I got the deck screws. I could probably use these. However, I've got larger washers. The larger washers work better. I feel more comfortable using them. And when I put this on, I'll be taking the neck, screwing it through the back into the PVC. There we go. When I do this, I want to make sure there's a couple of ribs between the back and the screw that I'm going to be putting in. When I put the screw in, it's going to go down into place, and this is going to hold the neck into place nicely. And of course, we're going to be corpsing everything, so everything's going to be getting covered with the corpse. I also want to pick a spot on the head here. I'm going to take a razor blade, cut out a little area. I'm going to do the same thing I did here, up to here also. So let me get my razor blade, bring this up, cut out an area. The area I'm cutting out is maybe a 1/4 inch by a 1/4 inch or so. It's not a big area. It's just an area that I can drill into and then put the screw into. And once again, I'm cutting this so that the screw or the drill bit does not get bound up in the plastic. So take this, drill a hole there, taking the other end of this. Once again, you want to have at least maybe 2 ribs or so. Put your screw through there, put the screw into the hole that you're going to be putting into the skull, that you already drilled into the skull. I probably should have done the hole a little bit lower. It would have made this a little easier. It's not a big deal, but and it's now attached back there. So we have the neck coming down to the back of the skull. Now you can have it going under, you can have it up top here. This is an alien creature, so the more bizarre you have it look, the better, I think. And now we got that neck on there. I've got it ready to hang in a tree. The next step is to corpse the whole thing. All right, so now we got the entire base of the creeper made. You can bring it out, put it where you plan on seeing it, look at it, make sure it's looks the way that you want it to look. Next thing we're going to be doing is corpsing. I showed you how to do the body. I'm going to corpse this, and I'll put out another video later on in the week showing how I corpse this and get everything together. There are actually a lot of like I use something called plastic corpsing. There are a lot of plastic corpsing videos online. Some of them are excellent. There's one done by Still Pete Studios, Alan Hops, that I watched years ago, and it's an excellent video for somebody who wants to learn how to do the plastic corpsing. And I'll just take you through how I do it. No big deal. Have a good day.